Okay, let's get this over and done with. Firstly, Australians don't really need to care about the ban list. The only ban lists we care about are the ones before the YCS and the ones before the WCQ. Those are the only two major events per year that we care about. Having said that, let's run through this backwards, unlimited through to Forbidden, and let's tell you what actually matters. Armageddonite doesn't matter. Isolde has been banned for months now. Red Rose Dragon, cool for the good stuff, synchro decks. Again, not really that important. If they were going to do well, they'd do well with one. Kieran wasn't played at one. Plushfire with the errata, I cannot see this taking stage in any way. Ancient Fairy Dragon, if it was good at one, it would have been fine, but it's not. Denglong didn't do anything at one, won't do anything at three. Time Seal is just a funny card we're going to be setting off of Trap Trick. Semi-limited Blaster Redox Tempest Tidal, the only one I see doing anything maybe is Tidal in the upcoming Rage of the Abyss support for Mermail Atlantean, but still I think that's a pretty average haul for semi-limited, but this is the part of the ban list that we've never really cared about anyway. The only card that should exist on the semi-limited list is Malicious, but that's fine. Lunalight Tiger, cool. I like to play that deck in August 4 years ago, but we're out of TOS format now. Speaking of TOS format, Colossus is actually nice for OG Thunder Dragon players who couldn't really get away with only one. And there is a world where you can stick to Colossus against all of the decks that do want to search. Bonfire, Wanted, Ash, Poplar. Plenty of resources will definitely need to be dedicated into making sure you have to deal with a Colossus, perhaps in the side deck, or if we're making some main deck inclusions for the combo to end on Colossus with Nemesis Corridor, that would be very cool as well. Ib, same thing as Denglong, although I don't know why Ib has gone to 2 instead of just 3. It wasn't doing anything at 1 for the synchro piles anyway. Limited. This is the juicy part. Eva, we don't care. For those of you who don't know, Eva just allows you to search a couple of low-level fairies when it hits the grave by banishing other fairies. That really only matters for Drytron, and when was the last time we saw Drytron do well? Covering over those, we'll skip past Snake Eyes. Skill Drain to 1. Oh dear, I'm going to have to find a different Floodgate for my Runic deck. That's fine. This is mainly so that the good decks can't play out under their own skill drain after floodgating your opponent for a turn. That grass looks greener. Branded may play that at 60 cards. I'm thinking of a brew. I'm thinking of a brew that plays runic cards, banishing a good volume of your opponent's deck, and then playing that grass looks greener because you've got the deck count advantage. Now, there might be a Lightsworn Runic deck coming out in the future. Sengen Summoning, Tempai is already a bad deck, so you can't hit any of the other cards in that list. Prosperity had to have happened. Dropping this down to 1 means every deck just can't search the one piece that they want. It is a shame that the Snake Eye deck really weren't using this card to its utmost potential, but everything in their extra deck is a one-of, and with the Fiendsmith engine, you really can't get away with banishing 3 or 6 of those cards. Opening of the Spirit Gates, necessary for Konami to recognize that the Yubel is a strong deck without hitting it in any way, shape, or form that matters. Brand Diffusion, they'll continue doing the same things they always wanted to do. If they open Brand Diffusion, you're just going to have the Ash for it, and now you're 3 times as likely to have the Ash for the one Brand Diffusion. That's not technically true, but it helps if they also don't choose to play around the Ash. Number 40, number C40, giving Puppet of Strings. This is just to make sure that they can't FTK you as consistently. I believe there is still a way they can FTK, but it does require much more specific openings. Everyone's playing still 9 to 10 hand traps in their deck, so that's fine. Snake Eyes Ash and Snake Eyes Poplar. The importance of the Poplar is that it is now a Garnet if you draw it, and normal summoning Poplar is far more brittle to hand traps than the deck has previously been. Having said that, Fiendsmith and Dear Bellstar and Wanted are all still fantastic extenders for this deck. I just think you're now going to have to pivot to a more control version now that you don't have access to what is on the Forbidden page. Snake Eyes Ash, who cares? It just reduces the repeatability. Honestly, you can just put both of these back with Original. You're going to have to be smarter with Original. You can't just be putting it back with Wanted on your first turn just to get an extra draw. Having said that, this is nowhere near good enough to nail the Snake Eyes deck to the wall. But having said that, the deck does appear far more fair, which is all you should care about. So long as the deck is fair, what does it matter if it's in the format? The deck can probably do some unfair things still. We're just trending towards a more fair version of the deck. If you can't beat Snake Eye with this, you probably should just be playing Snake Eye. And finally, with the Forbidden. The Forbidden shows that Konami is willing to hit new cards, just not the expensive ones, which is a really good sign. It's trending in the right direction. With Fiendsmith Lacrima, you can now no longer get the cheesy 1200 burn in the last phase of time, which is fantastic because it means that my Dogwoods and my Munins are going to connect with your board way better than they did before. Appaloosa being the necessary end piece for pretty much every deck that's able to spam multiple bodies. Now, this is not a very original take that Appaloosa had to go, but what it does mean is that your end board is pretty much just whatever IP and Flamberge can create. IP, Flamberge, Princess, and then at the absolute best, if you're playing the Fiends, all of the Fiendsmith cards, you can make a high Wave King Caesar. Those cards are perfectly fine. I have no issue with any of those cards. Caesar being 2 level 6 Fiends is plenty enough of a commitment that I think it's worth keeping around. And the only hard negate now we have in the format is Varudris in the Ubel deck, which I think Ubel is going to see a rise in popularity now because these cards are gone. The funny thing is, not too long before this list, all of my opening of the Spirit Gates from my eBay store sold out. Completely gone. Very funny. Not to say it's not a good card, but someone bought 3 of them 2 days ago. Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity. It didn't have to go, but it didn't need to be here. Cards that say you can't, shouldn't be in the game. We still have plenty of them, and we still have Albion and Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. As much as we don't want these cards in the format, I think Hot Red Dragon Archfiend was the most fair of them. If someone still gets to Albion with Branded Lost Up, there is nothing you can do about it. So I think we may see... I don't think Branded's going to be more popular. That's coping. And finally, Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal. While I fear for the people whose Tier 7 decks no longer function, I think getting rid of Beatrice means we can no longer see Angel of Blue Tears. We can't just be dumping pieces to be revived with Princess. I don't even remember what Beatrice sends off of these cards. The level 6 requirement for this was just too easy to meet. The only deck that wasn't really doing it was Ubel, because by then you're usually Fiend locked with Shavara. Having said that, the cards that I wanted to come off this list was probably just Shavara. That deck is too cool for the Unchained strategy in Purity, but not having it's not going to stop them from playing Ubel anyway. You only need the one to search off of Yama, so that's fine. For those people who are worried about, okay, where's Runic on this list? Or where's Shifter on this list? Or maybe even the people who are coping are, where's Dogwood on this list? For those who are afraid of Dogwood, nah, don't special summon. If I Dogwood you, it's too bad. I wanted it more. Dogwood is a silly card that trades for absolutely zero advantage. It is only just to put you in a really uncomfortable position in games 2, late in games 2, and in game 3 if your opponent is going first. Even if your opponent is going second. I'm going to play into an Nibiru if I have the Dogwood in hand. Shifter. If you are truly worried about Shifter being an unfair card, now it is one of those lingering effects that people tend to be afraid of, that if you are that worried about Shifter, maybe you should start building your deck to beat it. Now, if you're not willing to pass a turn on Shifter and set up some minimal interaction, IP, Temple, Oak in your Snake Eye deck, or you can... I have no idea what the U-Bell deck does under Shifter, I'll be completely honest. But if your strategy cannot consistently beat Shifter, or consistently play around Shifter or under Shifter, just... if you can't deal with your cards being banished, you're not going the 8 to 10 round stretch in a YCS anyway. You will just lose those rounds. You're just giving your opponent with a Shifter a free win. So Tempo might even just get out of this list perfectly fine. I don't like Shifter either. I don't like being shifted. All of my runic spells being banished after they're activated feels horrendous, because it turns off my gameplay loop and it turns off your gameplay loop. But learn to play under Shifter. Build your deck to play under Shifter. It's going to be a huge, huge percentage representation over the next 6 months. And if we don't get a list in the next 6 months, I won't be surprised. But we will get one before the Australian YCS. Again, I don't need to play Yu-Gi-Oh! I can just play my runic cards, activate Fountain, Demise or Duality, draw 3 every turn. I'll still have some floodgates. We got 1 skill drain, 1 rivalry, 1 Gozen, 1 Tikaboo, and 2 Power Sync Stone and 2 Synchro Zone. I'll be perfectly fine. I'm not hurt by this. There's a world in which they probably should have limited Tip or limited Fountain or gotten rid of Destruction or something. Just something to take a chip off Runic, but that's fine. Was there another card I wanted to talk about? What else were people bitching about that weren't on this list? Yeah, don't know. Honestly, don't know. The moral of the story, or the summary of today's video, is we live in Australia. Only 2 of our ban lists actually count towards anything. If you are playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In the next 3 to 4 months, my condolences, you will be playing against Snake Eye at the top tables. But in between that, the loss of Appaloosa means we can start playing Nibiru at 3, or we can start playing Bestials. Our hand traps are actually going to start to land, which is a fantastic feeling. It also means that you're not as pressured to play 18 to 20 hand traps in your deck to prevent your opponent from either getting to Appaloosa or being able to stop them during the Appaloosa negate, Nibiru Imperm, Nibiru Ghost Ogre. Ultimately, I think we're going to have a relatively healthy format right up until Rage of the Abyss comes out, and then it all goes to shit because, the Azumina cards are very, very powerful. But what I'm looking for, or looking forward to, is the Crossover Breakers deck build pack. No matter how bad those cards are going to be, I'm definitely trying Malice. But until then, your boy will be playing Runic Stun, and only Runic Stun. Salutations. Oyasumi.